Hey YouTube, I wanted to make a real quick video. I know we're at the time of the year where people are considering going to college in the fall. And if you're someone who's a graduating high school senior, I just wanted to make this video for you real quick if you're trying to decide on whether or not college is for you. I just wanted to kind of give you some facts, but also one person's opinion who may be a little bit older than you, maybe been around the block a little bit more, if you don't have anybody else to kind of talk this stuff over. So a lot of people are wondering, as the economy has evolved, is college worth it? A lot of people are taking out a lot of debt. I think the average amount of debt an undergrad is graduating with is about $30,000, between 30 and 35. That's just the average. Obviously, there are private colleges and even public colleges where people are going for more than 4 years who are taking out more than that amount of money. I try to think of things in life as a bell curve chart. So you have a small portion, you have a large portion in the middle, and then you have a small portion at the end. So that's the way I kind of approach this problem. If I was talking to someone who was 18 years old and just really wasn't sure, I guess I would ask them some questions. If you're someone who is a naturally gifted athlete or artist, and I'm talking about people who've been like scouted at an early age to play baseball or basketball, college may not be for you, straight up. If you're an artist, especially if you're a musician, if you are someone who paints or sculpts and your gift has been kind of noticed by people, you've been in galleries, I think at that point you really have to ask yourself what college would bring to you. That's a very, very small portion of people who probably honestly don't need college, and it's probably not worth the time in your life where you could be creating. There are definitely pros to it. You definitely can get a network of people around you who are into the same stuff that you are. I think that's really important. But I also think that we have this view of college as being between, for people who are 18 to 22. I think that view is changing a little bit, but I just think that if your goal is really to get knowledge and wisdom, that model of you have to be 18 or to 22, these 4 years, it's the only time you're going to be able to go, I think is diminishing. And so I think it's real important for those people, especially to ask yourself, especially as athletes, you're on a countdown clock to begin with, if you really would benefit from going to college if your dream is to become a professional athlete, especially baseball players, really. Basketball players, you may be able to go to Europe for a year, the G League for a year, whatever, and then get into the league is the way it's set up now. But college is still, I think, a lot of the way people get noticed on that stage. So that's a very, very small portion of people. I'll go to the other extreme. If you're someone who has gotten D's and F's in high school, you haven't really applied to yourself, and the idea of sitting through 4 years of lecture hall just sounds like hell to you, don't go to college. It's kind of going to be a waste of your time, and you're just going to drop out and waste a lot of money. If you know that about yourself at 18, I know not everybody does, but if you're someone who just has never been academically inclined, the time to discover that you are academically inclined is not college. There are obviously circumstances where that may be difficult and different for you. If you are in a situation where your safety, your personal, your physical and emotional safety were not guaranteed for 4 years, you were maybe in an abusive household, that will not apply to you. And that's maybe something you should talk to with a close friend or therapist about, if maybe that's something you can overcome if you were guaranteed a safe environment, because I know that's some people where that is the case. I feel bad for those people. But if that's who you are, if you were in a quote unquote middle class lifestyle, you had everything you needed and just it wasn't for you, I personally would tell you not to waste your time with college. You obviously can do what you want. But to me, if you know you're not going to be able to do the work and sit in the lecture hall and get through what you need to get through, I wouldn't even bother. Now, for the vast majority of people who are on the fence, and I think this is going to be probably 90% of people, some kind of post-secondary education is going to benefit you in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's a trade school, for those people who I talked about before, who maybe were D's and F students in high school, if you're someone who has good spatial skills and good with your hands and can kind of intuitively tell how to put things apart, take things apart and put them back together, trade schools may be a good option for you because they're relatively inexpensive And in some areas of the country, they need a lot of younger workers as the older workforce is retiring. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in making, $25, $30 an hour is not a bad living in a lot of parts of the country. And a lot of times, organizations that need those people, auto techs, things of that nature, will pay for you to go to school while you're learning how to be an auto tech, a mechanic, things like that, clean room tech in some parts. So that may be something that may be more your path and something to look into. Now, for the vast majority of people who are going to be in the middle, the facts are people are taking about $30,000 to $35,000 in debt to graduate. And for some people, that's going to be a really, really good deal in life, and other people, that's going to be a really, really bad deal. The way I would tell you, if you're asking how do I determine which one of those groups I'm going to be in, ask yourself what your major is going to be, and then find out what that major is making for last year's graduates. So if you're graduating in 2020, if you're graduating this year, you wanted to be finding out what people were making for last year in 2018. Or 4 years ago as you're entering college, I guess is the easiest way to say it. And that's going to be what you're making. They should be able to tell you, the college staff and career services people, if it's a large enough university, should be able to tell you how much the grads were making last year. They should have that information or some of that information for your major. And so that's really it. And I would try to take out less loans to whatever your first year salary is going to be. So if your first year salary is going to be $60,000, if you're taking out $80,000, $90,000 in loans to go to school, that's going to be tough to get out of. And yes, there are some people that still is a good deal, but the further away you get from the kind of 1-to-1 ratio, the harder it's going to be, and the more you're going to be in dire straits if it comes to that. And then also, obviously, know your job market. If you know you want to be an English teacher, and you know what state you're going to live in, that information is readily available. So you may be making $40,000 your first year as an English teacher, and that's really what you should be looking to take out in maximum in debt. And there are programs that are available to people for the PSLF and stuff, and you kind of have to make your own decision if public service loan forgiveness is going to be around in 10 years, and if it's going to apply to you. I would be more on the skeptical side of that, to be honest, but that's really kind of your own decision. But that's how I would look at it. I do think, for me personally, I graduated in 2007, right before the financial crisis. And I have a lot of different feelings and opinions about that. But to kind of sum it up, even though the people are taking out $30,000 to $35,000 in debt, the average salary that people are graduating college with now is like $50,000. From the numbers that I've seen, $50,000 to $60,000 is kind of common. And now, yeah, obviously in higher cost of living areas, that's going to be higher, and your debt loads are probably also going to be higher. But just looking at the averages, that is a much better situation than I think a lot of people who were my age were in when we graduated. So there's a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of things. If anybody tells you the answer is yes or no, without knowing you or your situation, they're lying to you. So a lot of it is really thinking about where you are in life and where you want to be, and just being honest with yourself, brutally honest, if this is really for you. Because college is hard. No matter what anybody tells you, it's a hard situation. I think it's gotten harder in a lot of ways as it's become more and more focused on job training and less focused on learning about yourself and experiences and what you like and what you don't. Now, I think it's more on, I went back to school for graduate school in 2012, which was about 5 years after I graduated from undergrad. I think even then it's really changed as far as what college is for. Where I think now it's like get a job. And I think that was less of that when I started going to undergrad. So I feel a little bad for people who are going to school now, but I also think that the opportunity for most people is still there. If you can graduate and get a job and get going, I think the opportunity is still there for it to be worthwhile. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. Until next time, bye.